landing a high-end client doesn't mean high-end bucks. So everybody out there is like, I want to book high-end clients. I want the luxury client, high-end, high-end, high-end. I want to go corporate. I want the corporate client. They have bigger budgets, right? But landing a high-end client or landing a large budget client doesn't mean high-end bucks. Believe it or not, there was a point where I was actually making less than $10 per event. Now, I say $10 an hour because I just want to round this figure up. But I'm going to be honest and I'm going to break it down for you and tell you the story of how I got there and the lessons I learned that you can actually learn from in all of this. So before I got to the place where I was actually making six figures and before I was doing events and before I was running my own coaching and consulting and digital marketing agency, here I was. So when I first started out, I started working, well, first I was doing different things, right? I always had a side business while I was in corporate. So I always had something on the side that I was doing. First, I had e-commerce. I was doing, Adobe Design before that. I was running like an online babysitting matching services at 18. I was always doing something online on the side in addition to like a corporate career. Then when I came into the event space, now all of my jobs in the corporate space always had some piece of event in it, but they weren't full event planning job. It was always like a percentage of your job is also to plan events. So finally, I came to a place where there was an actual event job in my organization. I applied, I got it, and I started doing it. So I was doing that, and I was doing that for a couple of years, and I decided, you know what? I want to try something on the side, and that's what I did. I started a little side project, but my side project now was actually like just events. Now, I started out first, many of you, if you've been following me for a while, already know the story. When I wanted to break into the event space outside of my full-time event planning job, what I did was I started first by volunteering, mainly because I was not interested in weddings or anything like that, right? I wanted to go straight into the corporate type events. So I first volunteered my services at a hospital to help to plan a fundraising gala that they were having for over 400 people, right? And I told them, I'm not interested in being on the ground and, handing out stuff on the event day, handing out t-shirt and water bottles and joking. But what I was actually interested in was being a part of the planning committee. And I said to them, I'm bringing this level of experience, right? I'd been planning events for quite a few years now. Here's my background. Here's my company that I work for. I'm very legitimate. You would actually get more value from me being a part of your planning committee than actually on an event day handing out flyers at the door. And they agreed. And that's how I started. So I started there as volunteer. Now, once I started as a volunteer, when they tried to have me back, I was like, no, 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 this needs to be paid now, right? But in doing that, I was able to leverage that into other planning jobs, right? With other corporate clients. I was able to do like a workshop for women empowerment seminars and just little stuff like that. But here's the thing. One of the things that I did was I was undercharging, right? Because when I came out, I was in my head so much. One of the things is that I didn't want to market my event planning services based on the company I was working with because I was still at the company. So I didn't want it to feel like I was taking their name and marketing myself outside, which felt a little like inauthentic to do that because it was almost like I was marketing my own business but using their name, and I didn't want to do that. Now, knowing what I know now, that was not an issue, right? I made it an issue, right? And I'm going to show you just how I learned from that. So one of the things that I did was I also felt like to be able to land the client, I couldn't just give them a really high price. I had to go lower. And that's how I ended up making less than $10 an hour. So I remember I did one event and it was a huge event. It was a huge company. It was amazing. Everyone loved it. They were kept talking about it. It was in the newspaper, all the good stuff. And then I actually sat down and did the numbers, and I literally made less than $10 an hour on the entire event, right? And I say that because I plotted out how much time it took me to do the event, be there on the day off, like all the back and forth, all of that. That's how much I made doing all of that. So I still made money, but it was nothing significant for the amount of time that I put in, the amount of time away from my family, right? The amount of time away from my partner, all of that. And keep in mind, I was doing this on the side. So this was not my full-time job at the time. I was doing this on the side in hours where this is usually the time where you get to socialize with your friends and family and actually catch up on everything else, like laundry. So what can you learn from this? Well, here are some lessons that I'm going to give you so that you don't end up in the same position. Because over time, of course, I learned how to change that. I increased my prices. I did all the things where I was able to get myself in a place where I was making significantly more money. But not everyone is there yet, and you might be in the place where I was a few years ago, and I want you to actually learn from my mistakes before you even dive in and make them. So here are some things that I learned. The first one is that Landing a high-end client doesn't mean high-end bucks. So everybody out there is like, I want to book high-end clients. I want the luxury client, high-end, high-end, high-end. I want to go corporate. I want the corporate client. They have bigger budgets, right? But landing a high-end client or landing a large budget client doesn't mean high-end bucks. And that you can see in my case because I did land that big corporate client. I did have the corporate people that were hiring me, but I wasn't making that large chunk of money. I mean, $10 an hour is nothing, right? Well, to some people it might be, but me at the time where I was with the level of experience that I had, it was not. So just be mindful of this. So don't go out there and just be chasing the high-end luxury titles and tags because they don't actually mean high-end profits and high-end revenues until a little other things in your business are in place. And I'm going to talk about that in number two. Number two is to not lower your price to get a client. So that was one of my biggest mistakes. I lowered my price in hopes of holding on to a particular client, booking them, and in hopes that, you know what, maybe they will see the value and just give me what I'm worth. That does not happen, right? Don't lower your prices. Whatever you know that events should be costing, that's what you should be charging. Don't try to undercut and be the lowest one just to get in the door, because the way you get in the door is sometimes the way that you stay there. Because imagine you get in and you told them, okay, you know what? It's $10,000 to do this event, when in reality it's actually 40. The next year, if they were doing something similar and you're telling them, well, yeah, now it's 40, they're going to want to know why there's such a big jump and big difference, right? Now, you might meet the odd client that don't, but majority would. I know I would. I would say, well, we just did this last year for 10,000. Why are you now saying it's 40,000? So just keep that in mind as you're going through and you're planning, and you're going through in your marketing, your sales pitch. I know you want the client. I know you want to book them, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to always lower your prices to be able to get them. Number three is to know your worth. I know this is a pretty generic statement, but I'm going to dive in. So here's the thing. I was in the place where I actually did not know my worth. You could tell that because I was coming into the game. I had so many years of event planning experience. I'd been in a corporation in-house planning multiple type of events. I was planning multi-day conferences, book launches, speakers, dinners, all these different type of events, student events I would collaborate with another planner on, but so many different types of workshops. We were hosting delegation events where we had international delegations come in and all different type of things. I knew what I was doing. I'd done it for many years. But when I came out, because I was in a space now where I didn't want to use the name of this company to market myself, I got into the kind of not knowing my worth, and I was falling back and, making myself smaller than I needed to be. And this does not serve you, right? You can still market yourself even if you might need to leverage the name of your existing company or past employer to move yourself ahead. But also know your worth in terms of the experience that you bring. Because even without the name of my corporate partner, I still brought a ton of years of experience. I still brought a certain level of knowledge. I was someone who I already came through. I had a degree. I'd also gone through like a graduate program in event planning where we focused so much on just the management side of the business in terms of the financials and insurance and risk and all of that. There are so many things I was bringing to the table, but I did not know my worth. And that included understanding the value I was bringing so I could level up my pricing, which we discussed in number two. So those are the three main things, guys. There's so much more you can take away from that. I hope this acts as a cautionary tale. Okay, not so much as a cautionary tale, but I hope that you're able to take something from this if you're going through the process yourself. Don't undercut yourself. Don't undercharge. Know your value. I know you want to get that client, you want to get that lead, but think about how you can restructure a package or an offer rather than just slash your prices just to get a booking, because in the end, you might not end up making any profit for it. Now, if you're looking for places in which you can actually find leads and market your business, download my 51 places where you can do that and linking it down below for you. And if you have any questions after watching this video, please don't hesitate to ask, drop them, I'll answer them, or someone else in the comment might respond to you before I do. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can get more videos like this one week after week.